Okay, we will go ahead and begin. Again, this is a quick webinar. We're just trying to show everyone the features that our accounting module offers, and obviously the abilities you have within it. So what we're concentrating today is the AR portion of it, where you can create accounts receivable invoices and how to track those. So with that, I'll go ahead and begin. There is a Q&A section where you can type in your questions. I will try to get to them all. If it's something I cannot answer immediately or I need to do a little bit of research on, I will be saving all the questions, and then it'll tell me the user that typed them in, and I'll be able to email you back a response or give you a call directly once we finish. So we'll go ahead and begin. Again, it's not a long webinar. Well, this will be recorded, so if you want a copy of it, we can send it as well. So with that, I'll go ahead and begin. Inside the accounting module, the first area we want to cover is the AR invoices. What this lets you do is it lets you keep your accounts receivable invoices organized. If you've been using the software, it should look a little familiar, kind of what deal desking, parts and service looks like. Again, trying to keep it uniform. But you can create AR invoices on the fly without having to create some type of deal or through a parts and service ticket. It's just a strict receivable that you can create for something that's owed by a company to you guys, or to your dealership, I should say. All right. So the AR invoices listing shows you basically every invoice you have open. Just like most of our modules, it'll be under its umbrella. So if it's an open invoice that you haven't posted, or it's still considered under the quote umbrella, if you will, that's where you'll see the listing. So as we go, once it's changed to an actual invoice and it's been posted to accounting as money received, and then it's been voided. So again, it's keeping a paper trail. The main reason we want to create it through an invoices is the purposes of having a paper trail of what we are doing. Yes, a lot of accounting bookkeepers like to go in and do a manual entry, which will work by creating a simple entry in the system, but the downfall of that is there's no true paper trail. You can't provide any receipts, you can't provide any paper trail of what that invoice was for, basically. So it makes it look, the downfall of that is, besides no paper trail, only the person that did the entry really knows where it's at, and yes, you could eventually find it, but having that person do a manual entry is going to make that way more difficult, whereas doing an invoice, you can search it up by customer and quickly see what's been done. All right, so that's the purpose of the AR invoices. Now, how do we create an invoice? Anybody that's used our software and done general POs, it's in the same section. So under our tools area, I can go to general PO and AR invoices, okay? And it'll be my second option right there. So I can click on AR invoice, and you can see here it's very similar to what we have as a PO. Again, the difference is here we are creating a receivable. So the first thing I want to do is attach the customer who's going to owe us this money. All right, so we'll select Jose there. All right. You can select your invoice date. So we're going to use today as an example. All right. Now, also with the invoices, it does let you do multiple entries. So you can create one invoice for 12 entries. So if it's a recurring bill that you want to charge against someone, you can do that as well by entering the recurring entries. So if you're going to create a year's worth of bills, you can go ahead and type in 12. And then when you go to create recurring entries, it'll look at this statement and basically process it, okay? And I'll show you where you can process those invoices at on there, all right? So I can say it's going to start today. Frequency, I'm going to do monthly. Again, if you're just doing one invoice, you're just going to leave it at default under 1. But if you want this to be a recurring bill that you want to charge against, you can go ahead and put in your start date, the frequency, and then the journal that you want that to post against, So I'll go ahead and continue. Entity reference number, you can put monthly dues. This is going to be my reference number, Jose Montero. Again, this is to the user's preference, so whatever you want to use as an entity reference number. This is where we're going to put in our AR account. So I'm going to hit find account receivable. All right. So So I can, if I don't know the GL, what you can do is there's a little ellipsis here that shows you how to look for your GL accounts. So I'm going to hit find, and I'm going to filter by accounts receivable, and I'm just going to use my default receivable account in here, which is 1100. Okay. You can also put in a PO, and you can also do credit terms. You know, basically, you can edit this drop down. It's going to show you when it's due. So I'm going to select it as the 22nd of each month on there, and then I'm going to put test AR invoice. Okay, and then you can put in your charges here. So under the price, you can put in, you know, $250 if it's like a monthly fee. Now, the quantity box does multiply. So if I was to put in 3, it will multiply my price times 3. So just so that your quantity does affect times your total price here. So you can see it's showing me extended price of $750 on there. As far as what's written in the descriptions and comments, that's total user preference. That doesn't it doesn't restrict you or require you a set amount of comments. Again, the more information you put in, the easier it's going to be for you to reference this at any point. You also have a notes section that you can put that won't print out on the AR invoice if you needed it to. Okay. And then here, basically what you want to do is you're going to debit your AR account, but what you're going to credit is some type of income account or sales account. That's typically because when you're ARing something, you're selling something that's going to be paid later on. So you're going to want to put in some type of sales account. So I'll put in a revenue account. I'm going to put it under miscellaneous revenue, but again, that's up to your discretion. We can't really tell you which one it should go to. Typically, when you're creating an AR invoice, it's because you're selling a good. So you would debit the AR because this customer is going to owe us this money, and then you're going to credit some type of sale account. Okay, and that's the typical practice. But again, that is a dealer discretion. What GL account, what sales account is used for that? I'm going to uncheck the taxable if taxes do not apply, but you can check it. And you can see here it is looking at basically it's pre-filling the dealership location, so state, county, and city. But you can basically exempt that or uncheck taxable so it does not calculate tax if that's the reason. Maybe they're tax exempt or it's just a flat dollar amount, that out the door price that you gave that's not being collected, taxes are not being collected. You want to uncheck it there. Okay. Profit center, that's pretty self-explanatory. Which profit center is selling this product, what department it's going to. So we're saying we'll go to the parts department. Maybe there was a stack of parts that were obsolete and you sold them to the customer. You don't have to create a parts invoice. You just want to sell them through an AR invoice. They're going to pay you down the road. So we'll go ahead and put, here, miscellaneous parts. Apologize my typing. That were obsolete. Okay. So we sold it to him for, there was 3 of them on there. We sold them at $250 a piece. Or if I wanted to do one at $750, again, it's times the quantity and the price I have on there. Okay. Now, it's, again, your preference, whether you want to break it down per item. So I could have easily broken down each part. As I type, it opens up a new field for me to create a new one. So again, this is, your preference as far as the detail and the breakdown of that invoice. If you're just doing a lump sum, you can do one line. Total user preference as far as how the breakdown goes. Okay. The only other real reason you would maybe break down the pricing is if you wanted the income to be from different departments. So if you wanted to give a partial of that sale to the service department, then you would break it down by department, basically, so that way they can each get credited for their sale. Right. So for an example, I'll do $375 here, and that's what's going to go to the parts department, but this is going to go to the other half is going to go to the service department. Again, I would break that down, put in my price here, and then I have my $750, but I'm not charging tax on it. Okay. And then we have our $750 total. Okay. You can put in your notes here on far as what you want to type in on that AR invoice if you need to. Now from here, what you do with it is at your discretion. You can hit invoice later and it'll leave it under quote. Invoice now will push it to the invoice section, and then post to accounting will create the actual journal entry that you post to accounting. Now, in most accounts where you're going to do a one-time entry for a sale or one-time invoice, you're going to hit straight post to accounting. You're not really going to use invoice now or invoice later. The difference is going to be is if you're going to create one of these templates, if you will, for multiple entries further down the road. That's when you're not going to hit post to accounting because the system's going to do it for you. You're going to hit invoice later to save that invoice, but then you're going to have a portion that you can process invoices on. So let's say this was a monthly recurring invoice that I put in 12 for. I'm going to hit invoice later for now, okay, and then hit exit, and then you're going to see. And there's the one I just created. It's sitting under the quote. If I was to hit invoice now, it would move it into the invoice section, and then post to accounting would create an entry. So what I want to show you here is let's say this one is a monthly recurring bill. What you can do is under tools, general PO and AR invoices, this is the process invoice tool, see? So it is looking at every AR invoice. There you see monthly dues, Jose Montero, and generating the entry for me. What's going to happen is the tool's going to run, and you can run this tool 10 times a day. The only way, it's only going to look at that invoice. So it's going to see that there is an accounting entry made for this month. It's a monthly recurring invoice, so it's not going to duplicate. So again, if you run this tool 10 times, that doesn't mean it's going to create 10 different invoices for the same one. Once that routine runs, it's looking at every AR invoice that's under recurring, that has a more than one entry on it, and it is going to basically bypass that one because it sees that it has one under this month, okay, on there. So just wanted to show you how that runs. Is basically for the ones that it did create, it is creating an invoice for me to print out. I don't want to print them out, but again, every invoice being generated is creating a receipt, basically, if you will, for those invoices, okay? So I'm going to kind of stop it at this point because this is my demo system, so it's probably going to have a bunch of them being created right now. So I'm just canceling out of them, all right? All right, so I hit the cancel button on those. There's no reason for me to actually create them, but you can see it's basically going through all my invoices and creating them. All right. Now, under the tools for accounts receivable, there is also process late fees. This is where you can put in a percent. So with your AR invoicing, if they haven't paid it, you can charge late fees. Now, the percent that you charge is up to you, but basically you'll put a percent here. It's going to look at any balance to a customer that's checked off process late fees on this percent. So basically it'll look at that AR invoice balance or the balance on the customer and process and make an entry for the late fees for you automatically. And what it's looking at is right here. So if we go into the CRM, I'm going to pull up a entity. We'll use the same one we have here. Okay. So we'll use, let me look up my same entity here. All right. Oh, that's because I have another entity number. I apologize about that. Last name. All right, we'll use Jose here again. So under the AR info tab, you see here there's a little checkbox, and you see that invoice I just generated. There's the $750 invoice that posted against his AR account. So you'll be able to receive this money in when he comes in, but there's a late fees checkbox. So basically, if you have that balance checked off as late fees, and you go to process them, whatever percent you put in there, it is going to process that late fee for you. Again, okay, so just to know that you can charge late fees on your AR balances. It's just checked off under the individual's profile under the AR info balance, okay? All right. And they also give you here a balance of that. You can give the individual customer an interest rate, so that way if you give them a 2% late fee versus a company standard of 5%, it will override it. So it won't, even though you put a percent in the processing fees box, it's going to look at the customer if it has, right now it's at 0. That doesn't mean it has to have a value in it. 0 just gets nulled and it goes to the default that you put on the tool on there, okay? Alrighty, so again, the AR info will always show you under the customer the balance that they have. You can even put credit terms to them, so if you needed to, on there. So again, anything that they've charged against their account, you'll be able to do that. Now, also with accounts receivable, in our parts and service module, it does allow you to charge on account. And maybe you've seen this before where on your cash out screen you see an on account button. And when you click on it, it doesn't let you, it says, you know, customer has no credit limit. This is also where you can set credit limits for the customer. So you can come in here and say, I'm going to give this customer a $500 credit limit. You can check off what system they can use it for, so parts and service, finance, or all. I'm going to select parts and service. Basically what will happen is once that's checked off, they can charge on account up to $500. The good thing is that it shows it to them on the invoicing screen, so they'll be able to see the customer's credit limit. You can check off credit hold if you needed to, so if the balance has been sitting there for a while, you can put them on a credit hold, and it doesn't let charge on account, and again, you can charge late fees, okay? You can also dedicate a specific AR account if you wanted to for that customer if you needed to. Or just let the system use the default one on the cash out type or on the AR invoice as well. Okay. So again, it's just keeping it real simple, knowing where the balance is. It's always going to be under the AR info tab under the entity, where you can provide them with a credit limit. Or if you're using the AR invoices, it will show you what invoices are posted on them. And when you go to receive that money in, it'll also show the credit to the accounts receivable for that invoice. All right. Now, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it, but on the receive pay on account, this is where you would receive the money in. But I just want to show you how it carries over. So I'm going to pick last name. I'm going to do Montero. And then we're going to select Jose. And you can see there, you know, he's going to make a $200 payment. And we're going to pick our credit card clearing account here. And you can see it shows his balance. Okay, so with that, you can hit pay, but since he's paying a certain specific amount, I'm going to type in 200, and then I could go ahead and receive that. But as long as it's showing up in here, that means it's posted, and that balance is hitting against that customer. Once you've processed this payment, you know, I hit save, and I go to pull up this entity, that balance will be reduced by that invoice amount. So you can see here, under the entity again, I debit, you know, he has a $750 invoice, but then he's paid off $200, and you can see it shows his remaining balance under his AR invoice, AR info tab. Right. So again, the AR info tab is kind of like a live report of what the balance is. Okay. Right. So again, we just wanted to show the feature of keeping track of accounts receivable and creating them through their own separate invoices. Now, obviously, there is a lot of system-generated receivables, like from a deal or from a parts or service ticket where they're allowed to charge onto account. But now you're able to see where you can charge those and set those credit limits for the customers. So again, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us for the AR invoicing webinar coffee break. If you have any questions, please feel free to fill them out in the Q&A section. I'll leave it open a little while for anyone. And again, thank you so much for joining us today. If you don't have any questions, please feel free to just simply exit the meeting. But again, thank you everyone for joining us today.